This this conference
Hello everyone, good evening. Can you all hear me and see my screen share? Can someone please acknowledge? All of you are
Yes,
on mute.
Kiran. Yeah, we can.
Okay, thank you. So thank you everyone for joining. Today happens to be our day 2 class. Yesterday we had a demo class, which in fact is the day 1 class, and today we are having the day 2 class. So yesterday we discussed, what is an API. API stands for Application Programming Interface, and APIs are used to transfer the data from one module to another module in the form of text format, JSON format, HTML format, XML format, or YAML format. That's the kind of a review we did yesterday. A quick understanding is what we had yesterday. So we chapter one, and we have covered the first 2 points in yesterday's class. And today we are going to talk about introduction towards client and server architecture, which is very essential and important for API automation testing. So I'm sharing my screen. I hope everyone is able to see this. So we are going to discuss today client and server architecture, and this is very, very important when it comes to understanding the API automation testing. So let us discuss today the entire client and server architecture. So on the left hand side, let me draw a client. So I'll say this is my client, and let's say this is my server. So let us say this is client, and let's say this is server. We all know what is a client and what is a server. To give a quick definition of a client is any application or a device that submits a request. A request could be something like a google.com, gmail.com, or amazon.in. All those are requests that you submit. And we submit all these requests on a client or from a client. So example of a client could be your browser. Every day we use browser to submit lot of requests, like you check your Outlook emails, your Gmails, your Facebook, your WhatsApp, Instagram, etc. So browser is an example of a client using which you submit requests. And another example of a client is our Postman tool, which we are going to learn in this course. So using Postman tool also we can submit API request. Now examples of a request could be anything. Whatever you submit on the browser can be an example. So example, if I just go here and just type something like amazon.in, so that's a request I'm submitting on the browser. So this is an example of a request. Okay, so that's an example of a request. Okay, like this, there are so many requests. I will talk about them slowly. Now, if you come to the server, a server is also any application or a device that receives the client request and gives back a response to the client. So examples of server could be, there are so many servers that developers will use. So we have something called a Tomcat server, we have Nginx server, we have IBM WebSphere server. Developers use these application servers and web servers. Then you have Glassfish server. Then you have Microsoft IIS, Internet Information Services. So this is also a server that's available, right? So these are the servers which receive your client request and then they give back a response. Now, whenever server gives back a response, the response from the server to the client can be in HTML format, or the response can be in XML format, the response can be in JSON format, the response can be in text format or YAML format. Yesterday we have discussed these many formats. So these are the formats in which the responses can come from the server to the client. So if I talk about the diagram, client typically sends a request to the server. And an example of a request I have given here, if you see. So this is an example of a request, right? And what does the server do? The server gives back a response to the client. So here I will say the client submits an API request. Okay. And what does the server give back? an API response body. Since we're talking about API automation in this course, I use the word APIs before request and before response. If you wanted to know an example of a request, an example of a response body, I can show you a lot of examples. Like if it's supply amazon.in, that is a request, and whatever you see is a response. So this is a HTML response that you are getting. And if I have to show you one more example, I'm just typing some URL in the request. So this is also one request which I submitted on the browser. And you see I'm getting some message here which is in XML format. You can see. So this is an example of request where the response is coming in XML. Okay, this is one more example I have. And if you want another example, I can type something like http://bin.org/json. So that's another request I'm aware on the internet. When you type this request, you see you're getting some response on the browser, which is in JSON format. So this is another request that's available on the internet. I mean, there are so many examples. We are just taking some examples for our understanding purpose. And here, the responses that you get from server can be either in HTML format or in XML format or in YAML format. So I'll just drag and drop it here. Okay. So understand the fact that the client submits an API request and the server submits an API response. This is the first thing that we know when we talk about client and server architecture. But apart from this, client also submits something called protocol. I think in the college days and in your projects, you heard of protocol so many times, right? So if I write in the notes, uh, so protocol, it is a set of rules and regulations that client and server agree with each other before sending request and response to each other. So that is the definition of a protocol, right? It's nothing but a set of rules and regulations that client and server uses before they send a request or before they send a response. And there are so many examples for protocols that you will see in the internet. You have HTTP protocol, HTTPS protocol, FTP protocol is there, MQTT protocol is there, Java is a protocol, SQL is a protocol, file is a protocol, LDAP, SMTP, IMAP, POP3, JM, JMS, etc. So there are hundreds of protocols available in the internet to communicate the data from client to server depending on the internet. Example, if you are using databases, SQL is the protocol used. Whenever you work with files such as Notepad or Microsoft Word or Excel sheet or any other document on the computer, like including a PDF, the protocol used by computer is file protocol. When you are sending emails, we use SMTP protocol. When you are receiving emails, we use IMAP or POP3. When you are working with a big volume of data, such as big data, Facebook uses MQTT protocol, YouTube uses MQTT protocol, WhatsApp uses MQTT protocol. In the colleges and universities, they use FTP protocol called file transfer protocol for transferring the data from one client to their local servers. And on the internet, we use HTTP and HTTPS for transferring the data from client to server or server to client. So whenever we talk about APIs, the protocol that should come to your mind is this one, HTTP protocol and HTTPS protocol, because we use only these protocols in APIs. These are the two major protocols we use, HTTP and HTTPS. Can anyone tell me what is the full form for HTTP? Is anyone aware of the full form for HTTP? Are you guys with me? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay. So any idea about what is HTTP, guys? These are all the basics. So let me write it down here. HTTP is a protocol which stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And you have HTTPS, which stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol with security. Okay. So let me talk few points about Hypertext Transfer Protocol. So HTTP protocol, it is an unsecured protocol, which means whenever you send the data in the browser using HTTP protocol, there is no guarantee that your data will go to server. In between, someone can steal your data, someone can modify your data, someone can damage your data. So that is a problem with HTTP protocol. It is unsecured protocol, and hence your data transfer between client and server is not guaranteed, meaning there is a chance that your data can be lost. But if you use HTTPS protocol, your data is guaranteed because it is an advanced version of HTTP. So it is a secured protocol, and hence your data transfer between client and server is guaranteed, which means your data will definitely go from client to server and server to client. So HTTP is having this problem. By design, this protocol has this problem. It's a very old protocol. And HTTPS is the latest protocol. I mean, latest in the sense, not today. It's there for the last 20 years. And in any API, we always recommend the developers to go and use HTTPS protocol because it is safe and secure. Now the question is, how does HTTPS protect the data that you are sending from client to server? So see here, if you see, there is a HTTPS in the URL. Most of the websites have HTTPS, meaning it is secured data. So if you click on this icon, here it says connection is secured. And if you click on this, it says that connection is secured, and whatever information you sent over the internet, such as your passwords, credit card number, they are private. Private means your data is safe. And they say they are using a certificate which is valid. What is this certificate? I would like to talk about it a little bit. So here, HTTPS, it uses SSL or TLS certificate to encrypt or to protect the client and server data during transmission process. So how is HTTPS protecting the data when client is sending or server is sending? Such as I'm sending a username and password for login. What is the guarantee that my username and password is not stolen by a hacker? Or server is giving me some data that Kiran, this is the data server is giving you. How is that data protected? Using these certificates. So here, SSL, these are all interview questions. SSL stands for Secure Sockets Layer, and TLS stands for Transport Layer Security. Either the developer will use SSL protocol or TLS protocol in HTTPS to protect your data. Now, however, this SSL protocol, it is outdated version. It is not latest right now. So this is gone case. Later, it is replaced by TLS. It is the latest version. Okay. Now within TLS, we have TLS version 1.0, then we have version 1.1, version 1.2, version 1.3. These are the different versions available in TLS, and the TLS version 1.3 is latest, and this version 1.0 is old. Later they came with 1.1, which is also old right now, and this is also another old version. So whenever I say HTTPS, you have to say that HTTPS is nothing but HTTP protocol plus SSL protocol. Or when I say HTTPS, it is nothing but the regular HTTP protocol plus TLS protocol. The combination of previous protocol and TLS or previous protocol and SSL becomes HTTPS. Okay, this I'll put it somewhere here. Okay, and this is the latest, and this is the outdated format. Okay, so all you have to understand is the developer will use a protocol whenever APIs are being sent from client to server. And HTTP is called unsecured protocol. Your developer should not use it. And the latest version of protocol developer has to use is always HTTPS protocol and not HTTP protocol. Am I clear, guys, until this point in the client and server architecture diagram? Do you have any questions? I want acknowledgements. Please don't be on mute and in silent. That will not make the program exciting.
Yeah, Kiran, everything is fine till now.
Thank you. How about the other folks who are on mute continuously?
It's fine for me as well.
Okay. Others? Okay. Okay. So in the client and server architecture, the client sends a request, and this request is accompanied by a protocol, and the protocol can be either HTTP or HTTPS. Ideally, we recommend HTTPS. Then we also have something called in the client and server architecture, HTTP methods. You might have heard of these HTTP methods, like you have heard of get, post, put, patch, delete. They are called as HTTP methods. So let's
Mm-hmm.
talk a little bit about these HTTP methods. HTTP methods. So these HTTP methods will explain the type of request. So I'll say the definition is they explain the type of client request sent to the server. So here, if you see in the diagram, we know that client is sending a request, but what type of request client is sending, that is explained by HTTP method. Example, if you go to a bank and tell the bank manager, I need a loan, that is a request. But you're not telling what type of loan, whether you want a personal loan or a gold loan or an agriculture loan or a home loan or a vehicle loan or something else. So you have to be specific about what type of loan when you say I need a loan. Similarly, when you say that client is sending a request, you have to specify what type of request you are sending to the server from the client. And that is decided by HTTP methods. So in API testing, there are four methods that we have to be aware of. One is a method called get, another is called post, another is called put, then patch, then delete. So these are the five methods that we should be aware of. Whenever I say get method or the developer says get method in API testing, this is the meaning of it. So this HTTP method is used to retrieve or read the existing, guys go on mute, to retrieve or read the existing data from the database or from the server. So why do we use get method? To get the data from the database. Let's say in the database you have some data about a particular employee and his details. So you write a select query to get the data from the database. You will say select star from table name where employee ID is equal to 123. So you are getting the data of a particular employee from the database. So those kind of actions will use get method in the APIs. So whenever you browse any website, it is always a get method. Amazon.in, if you browse, it is a get method because you are loading the website data. If you're typing Instagram.com, you are loading the website data, it is a get method. You're typing Gmail.com, Google.com. Browsing any website is an example of get method. Okay, so I can say browsing a web application is an example of get method. Another example is file download. Whenever you download a file from the server, it's also an example where get method is used. Okay, so that's get method. Then post method. This method is used, let me write the definition. This HTTP method is used to create a new user in the database. It need not be a user only, it is used to create new data, I can say. So whenever you do any action on the internet and that action is going to create some data in the database, then that functionality is using post method. Example, if you do not have a user account in Gmail, you sign up and you create a user account, right? So sign up process is an example of post method. Let's say you wanted to send an email from one person to another person. So you are sending an email. So you are creating new data on the server. So sending an email is also a post method. Or you wanted to upload a file to Google Drive or to any other server. So you are creating data on the server when you are uploading the file. So any action that you do on the internet, if it is creating data on the server, it uses post method in the backend. So example is file upload or sign up process to any website, like signing up for Instagram, Gmail, Facebook, WhatsApp, etc. They're all examples of post process, post method. Guys, am I clear with the get method and post method? Please acknowledge.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then we have put method. Now put method is used whenever you wanted to update the data in the database. So this HTTP method is used to update the existing data in the database or in the server. Like we do so many actions on the internet to update our data, right? If you go to your WhatsApp display picture, you update your DP on the WhatsApp at least once in a week or every day or whenever you want. But every time you remove your picture and update a new picture, you are using a put method there without your knowledge. And sometimes you change your Gmail password because it's very old. That is also an example of update process. Facebook also, you update your profile, you update your details, you update your pictures. They're all examples of put method. So example of put method is updating user profile details on social media, or change password. Whenever you change your password for Gmail, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, anything, when you're changing the password, it's an example where you use put method. Okay. Similarly, patch method is there. Patch is also having same definition as put. So let me copy paste. So patch is also used to update the existing data in the database and server. However, this is limited to partial updates or selective updates, meaning you cannot update all the fields in the database. Let's say there are 5 fields that you can update. You can update first name, last name, middle name. Let's say three fields are there to update. If you are updating all the fields, then the developer will say use put method. If you are updating any one field or 2 fields, but not all the fields, which is partial or selective, then we use patch method. So example could be the same examples I can take. So here I can say this method can be used for full updates or selective partial updates. So patch is very old concept of using it. Developers mostly use put method for update actions, but patch can also be used for update actions. The difference is patch is used not for updating all the fields in the database, updating any few of the fields in the database where patch can be used. Finally, we have delete method. The name is self-explanatory. So I'll say this HTTP method is used to delete the existing data in the database or on the server. Example is deleting emails, deleting messages, or deactivating user accounts on social media. They're all examples of delete actions. So anything that you do on the internet, if you're deleting something, it's an example of delete method. So whenever you think of HTTP methods in the client and server architecture or during API testing, you will come across get method, which is used for reading the data from the database, post method, which is used for creating data in the database, put and patch for updating data in the database, delete for deleting the data in the database. Very important in API testing. Is this clear for all of you, or do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a
Kiran,
question, Kiran. So
so the
basically,
protocol between client and server is using HTTP protocol, right? In the same way, the server and database is using same HTTP protocol or any different protocol?
See, if the client and server is using HTTPS, server and database also uses HTTPS. If the client and
Okay,
server is using HTTP, server and database also uses HTTP.
okay, fine.
Yeah. Looks like there is a question from the participant. Go ahead. Kiran, you have a question, I guess. You're on
yes,
mute.
I have. Yeah, yes, I have a question, Kiran. So basically,
Yeah.
my question will be around this put and patch and um, patch and put. Predominantly, when you say put, it is something like you will do a full update, where patch
Hmm.
is like a partial one, right?
Correct.
So is there any other example that we can talk about on put and patch, put versus patch?
Okay. Another difference I can probably talk about it. using put, we can also create data. So this HTTP method, which is put, can also be used to create data in the database or server. Meaning, put can work like post, but patch cannot work like post. So patch cannot work like post. That's another difference between put and patch. To make it little better or clear in terms of the first explanation, so whenever you go to any profile updates screen, so I'll just Google Facebook edit profile. I'll show you one image. Look at this image. Okay, so here you see this is the profiles picture. I mean the profile settings for a particular user. You see here there are so many fields, right? Current city, hometown, gender, birth date, interested in, languages, about me, show the gender in the profile, etc. So there are nearly some 8 fields are there in this application. If you are updating all the fields, I mean if you are typing every field some data and clicking on save changes, I call it as full update. That's where put method will be used by developers in the backend. And you will also use put method in the API. If you are updating few of the fields, not all the fields, I will update, let's say, only the first 4 fields or any 3 fields or any 4 fields or any 5 fields, which is less than the total number of fields. They are called as partial fields or selective fields. And when I click on save changes, then the developer will say we can use patch method in such situations, or you can still use put also. Put is like super guy. So put can be used for updating all the fields or for updating partial fields. Whereas patch is used only for updating partial fields, not for updating all the fields. That's how visually you can see the difference between between put and patch method. Is that clear now, or you have any questions?
That is clear, Kiran. Thank you for explanation. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we're talking about the HTTP methods, and in the client and server architecture, we have this. So now the way you have to understand this diagram is client is sending an API request, which is accompanied by a protocol such as HTTP or HTTPS, which is also accompanied by a HTTP method, either get, post, port, patch, delete. The last thing that client sends to the server when sending an API request is request headers. Okay, it's called request headers. Now this is something a client sends to the server. So let's talk a little bit about what is request headers. So I'll write the definition, I'll make it clear then. It is the additional metadata sent by client to the server along with the client request. Now, what do I mean by additional metadata? Let me give an example. Okay, let's talk a general example, not a theoretical, I mean, not a technical example. Let's say Kiran goes to the bank and has a request to the bank manager. And the request is, I need home loan of 1 crore Indian rupees. So this is the request that Kiran made to the bank manager. Now the bank manager cannot directly say approved, or he will not directly say rejected, right? He needs to inquire why this guy needs, what is his eligibility criteria, how can he repay the loan or not. So those considerations will be there before the request is approved or rejected. So what does the bank manager say? The bank manager says, can you help me with some additional details like your salary details, how long you are working in that company, do you have any savings, do you have any existing loans, and where do you stay, etc., etc. So I have to answer all these questions. If I don't answer these questions, the chances of getting my request approved is very less. So I'll tell the bank manager that my salary is, let's say, 20,000 rupees, and how long you are working for the last 3 years. My savings is around 1 lakh, I do not have any loans. I stay somewhere in this area. So based on this answer, the bank manager finally says, okay, Kiran, your loan is approved, or okay, Kiran, your loan is rejected. So this additional details, whatever I'm supplying to the bank manager, it is called as metadata or additional data that I'm supplying along with this request of 1 crore. So the request looks like this now. Okay, Mr. Bank Manager, I need a home loan worth 1 crore and my salary is this. I've been working for 3 years. I have a savings of 1 lakh rupees. I don't have any other loans on me. Now the bank manager clearly understands my request and additional data so that it will help the bank to decide whether my loan can be approved or not. Similarly, when the client is also sending a request, like google.com is a request, that request alone is not sufficient. Your browser has to send some additional data to the server. And that additional data, what we send to the server, they are called as request headers. So examples of request headers. Now we are talking technically. I will write few of the examples of request headers. There is a request header called connection. Then there is a request header called user agent. Then there is a request header called content type. Then there is one more request header called accept. And there is one more request header called accept language. And then etc. There are so many, but we'll talk the first 5 which are important. Whenever I see the header called connection, it will tell the server whether client and server are already connected to each other or not connected to each other. Example, we are all having this class today. When I'm speaking, you are able to hear because we are connected to each other using this software called GoToMeeting. So our connection is open. Our connection is live. That's why I can hear you, you can hear me. Similarly, when the client is sending a request to server, the connection has to be opened. So when the connection is open, the value it will have is keep alive. So when you see connection value as keep alive in the request header, it means client and server are connected to each other. Sometimes you will have another value called close instead of keep alive. So if connection is close, it means client and server are disconnected with each other. So this information server wanted to know when the client is sending a request. So server says, are you connected to me because you are sending a request? Then the client says, yes, in the request header, I sent you this message. Connection is keep alive, meaning I have established a connection with you. Then we have user agent. User agent will reveal your identity. Reveals your identity such as the operating system details, the browser details. So when I send a request from my Chrome browser, the server will come to know that this request came from a specific version of Chrome browser and from which operating system the request is coming. So when you type anything here on the browser, let's say I'm typing something called google.com. When this request goes to server, the server knows that this request came from Chrome browser and the version of Chrome browser I'm using is version 120. So server will know that Kiran is using Chrome browser version 120 and Kiran is this request came from Windows 11 operating system. So these details server will know automatically whenever I supply any request on the browser. Whether you use Firefox browser or Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge or Mac operating system, Safari, anything you use, the details of your operating system and server and operating and browser will be sent in user agent. Okay, please remember user agent. That's very, very important for while doing performance testing or security testing or API testing. Then we have accept. Accept will tell the server what type of response format will the client accept. If you remember, yesterday I have told you that when client and server are talking to each other, the responses can come in any of these formats, right? Text format, HTML, XML, JSON, YAML. Server can send the response in any format, but client will decide in which format it wants. So in the accept header, client will tell that, hey server, I want the response in HTML format only. Then here it will say HTML. If accept value is HTML, client is telling the server that I will accept only HTML response. If you see the value as XML comma HTML comma XML. Then the client is telling the server that I will accept the response if it is either in HTML or in XML. If you see something like HTML comma image slash JPG, then client is telling the server that I will accept HTML response, and if any image is coming, it should be in JPG format only. Okay, it is like this. When I go to a bank and I have to repay the money, repay the loan, if I give the if I tell them, okay, manager, give me your Google Pay number, I'll Google Pay. Bank will say, no, Kiran, we don't accept Google Pay. We accept only check. So accept is check or accept is cash. That is like accept. Am I clear, guys, on the first three? Connection, user agent, and accept. Clear or unclear?
Clear. Okay.
Okay, then we have accept language. Here client will tell whether it is expecting the response in English format, like English United States or English Great Britain or English India or sometimes Hindi India, like this. Okay, so accept language will tell the server that in which format the response body should be printed. So whenever you visit google.com, amazon.in, flipkart.in, what is the language in which you get it? What is the language format in which you see the response? Usually you'll get it in English only, right? When you visit google.com, Amazon, any website you visit in India, at least you get the response in English, which means accept language there is English. But if you happen to be visiting a Chinese website or a Japanese website or a Spain website, you get the content in non-English. Their accept language is set by the developers to their local language. Understood? Then we have content type. Content type will tell the server in which format the client request is sent to server. Whenever I send a request to server, the request also can be in XML format or HTML format or JSON format or text format or YAML format. So client is sending the data to server, client is sending the request to server. So in which format client is sending, that is told by content type. So if client says that content type is JSON, client is telling server that I'm sending you in JSON format. If client says that I'm sending you in XML format, then content type will be XML. That is the meaning of content type. Okay. So these are the request headers that we have to keep in mind. So I'll write down those things here. So we have connection header, we have user agent header, we have accept header, we have accept language header, then we have content type header. Okay. So this is 50% of client and server architecture that we have discussed today. Okay. Now let us talk about the rest of the client and server architecture. So this is like from client to server. Now from server to client also you have this journey. So from server to client, you have something called response headers. Just like you have request headers for the client, server also sends response headers. So the definition of response headers is same as what you see here. It is the additional metadata, but sent by server to the client along with server response. Server usually sends a response only, but it sends some additional data along with response. Like my bank manager said that, Kiran, you gave me a lot of details about your salary, your job, but I'm sorry, your loan is rejected. So loan is rejected is a response. And I will say why. Then he will give me reason 1, reason 2, why the loan is rejected. So they are called as response headers. So server also gives certain additional response headers to the client. Example, date. So the date on which the response is sent out is present in date header. Then you have content type. So server also will tell in which format it is sending the response. So this will tell to the client in which format server is sending response to the client. So here client told in accept that I will accept only HTML. So server has to acknowledge it, right? So in the content type, it might print that, okay, I'm sending you in HTML only. Just like, the client will ask the server, I need in XML. Server will say, okay, I'm sending you in XML only. That is like content type. And sometimes you will get even the server details, like the name of the server which is responding. So the name of the server can be something like, these things, the Tomcat server, Nginx server, anything. So there are few response headers like date, content type, server, and etc. So many other details are there. We'll talk about them later. Example, if any cookies are coming, you will see it. If any caching is coming, you will see it. So these response headers are additional data that server is sending to client. And then we have something called response code and also response description. Every time server sends a response to the client, meaning whenever we send a response body from the server to client, that response body will have a unique code, response code, and a unique description about that code. Very important for our API testing. So let me write down here. So you have response code. So what is response code? It is a 3-digit status code sent by server to the client. And why is it sending it? To reveal the status of client request. See, we sent a request, google.com. Now, what happened to it? Is it working or failing or passed, or server is still waiting to give response? To know what happened to my request that I submitted on the browser, the server will send a 3-digit code to the browser, and the browser has to read it to understand why there is a delay or have I got a response. So the range of this response code is, it starts from 100, it goes until 599. So this is the range of the response code. Okay. Now, how do we understand these response codes? So I'll give you a clue. If the response code is between 100 to 199, we call it as 1XX series. If the response code is between 200 to 299, we call it as 2XX series. If the response code is from 200 to 300 to 399, we call it as 3XX. 400 to 499, we call it as 4XX. 500 to 599, we call it as 5XX. The meaning of 1XX response codes, meaning if the server is giving a response code and it falls between 100 to 199, it means it's an informational response. Meaning server is giving you some piece of information that, yeah, your response will come in the next few seconds. Your request is queued up. Those kind of acknowledgements are come under information. Then you have 2XX, which is called successful responses. Successful response means whatever get method you used, you got the data. Or if you have used post method, your data is created. If you have used put or patch method, your data is updated. If you have used delete method, your data is deleted. So those kind of actions will come under successful responses. Examples, we get 200 message when we use get method, and the get API is success. We get 201, the meaning is created, and you get it whenever you use post method, and if it is success. You get 202, whose meaning is accepted whenever you use put method or patch method. And you get 204, meaning is 204 no content, and you get this response code when you use delete HTTP method. So any number that falls between 200 to 299, it's a success message you are getting from the server. Then we have 300 to 399. It stands for redirectional messages or redirectional response, which means you sent a request to server and server is busy, so it sent that request to another server. That's a redirection. So whenever your request is forwarded to another server, then the server will tell the client that your request is redirected, hence expect a delay in the response. Those kind of movement of request from one server to another server comes under 300 to 399. Then we have 4XX, which is called client-side error. Client-side error means your request is having a problem. You made a mistake in the request. Example, you have codes like 400, which means bad request. Then you have 401, which means unauthorized, meaning you are not logged in, but you are still trying to test the API. Then you have 403, which means forbidden, meaning you are logged in, but you don't have rights to do that activity. 404 is not found, meaning whatever data you are trying to search for in the database, it is not there. So these are few common errors that you have. Okay. So 400 bad request comes whenever you do syntax mistakes. Example, um, you know, empty fields in the sign up form, or whenever you are doing a data entry and you enter empty fields or invalid data, then it comes under 400 bad requests. And 401 unauthorized comes when you enter invalid credentials or missing credentials in the sign in form. And 403 forbidden comes when you don't have access rights to do something. Like you wanted to delete something, but you don't have delete permissions, then you get 403 forbidden. Or you wanted to run something, but you don't have permission to run it, so you get 403 forbidden error. You get 404 not found when the page or data or user you are searching for is not present in the database. Example, if you want, when I type google.com/kiran.html, that page does not exist on Google server. So it says 404. That's what I wrote, right? 404 not found. So it says the requested URL kiran.html is not found on the server. That's 404 error. And whenever you try to log in, okay, I mean, whenever you, let's say I'll give some application. So here you have the username and password. When I click on login, by entering some invalid username and invalid password and click on login, for a manual tester, this is the message: login failed, please enter valid credentials. But in the backend, the server generated this error, 401 unauthorized, because I have entered invalid credentials. Okay. And similarly, if I take you to some other form like instagram.com/signup, now here, without filling the data, if I click on sign up, or let's put something like 87. Okay, you see here the mobile number is not 10 digits, and you see here I'm getting these errors automatically, these things. So for the user, if he is a cross mark, but in the backend, the error generated is 400 bad requests because we have entered invalid data here. Okay, so these are the client side errors. Client side errors will come when you make a mistake in the data entry. Then finally we have 5xx, which means server side error. So these errors are coming because of the server. Maybe server is busy, so you are getting these errors. Example, you get 500, which means internal server error. And another error code is there, 503, service unavailable. So whenever the server is, extremely busy and unable to handle your current request, you get this error. So internal server error comes when server is busy with existing user load. You get 500 error. Something like when I'm talking to someone on the phone and you are calling me, you get a busy tone. That is like internal server error. And you get service unavailable for multiple reasons. Probably when server is shut down or server is restarting. Then you will get this error, service unavailable. It's like my phone is shut down, then you will see, you'll get a ringtone. I mean, you'll get a message that the phone you're trying to reach is not available. So it is not available for everyone, not just for you. Okay? Or when there is no power supply or no internet at the server. Okay, when the server does not have internet supply or no power supply, then you get 503 service unavailable. Okay, or whenever the server is going through software updates or hardware updates, then you know that the system is temporarily shut down for some time, then you'll get 503 service unavailable. So when you get a 5xx error, you have to inform the developer. So I'll write something here. If the response code is 2xx, test case pass. But if the response code is 4xx or 5xx, your test case has to be failed because you are getting an error from the server. That you have to keep in mind. And 3xx is a temporary state. It is not a permanent state. 3xx can become finally success, 2xx, or it can become 4xx or 5xx. So even 1xx can become 2xx or 4xx or 5xx. Similarly, 3xx, which is redirectional, it can be converted to success or a client error or a server error. What is important is only these things. Okay. So this 400 is the response code and this bad request is the response description. So these meanings, whatever I'm writing on the right side, they are called as response descriptions. So we will check for these kind of response codes in the API testing. So in the response code, you have 1xx, 2xx, 3xx, 4xx, and 5xx. What is 1xx? Information. What is 2xx? Success. What is 3xx? Redirectional. What is 4xx? Client side error. What is 5xx? Server side error. Any questions, guys, on this client and server architecture? This is the full client and server architecture that you have to keep in mind whenever you are doing API testing or performance testing or security testing or even manual testing. If someone says, do you know client and server? You have to explain all these things. And this is what happens in reality when you do API testing. Now you might say, is this really happening? If you need a proof, I can show it to you. So I'll supply a small request here on the browser. So that's a request. So this is the request and this is the response. So I'm showing you only request and response. Where is the protocol? Where is the HTTP method? Where are the request headers? Where are the response headers? Where is the response code? To see all these things, you can right click on the browser and click on this inspect element. On the right side, you will see network tab. This is where you see all the network calls coming. Just refresh your browser. So I refresh the browser and you see the path I'm accessing is /JSON, and that is what I see here, JSON. If you click on it, you see headers. Here you see the HTTP method is shown to you. The status code, the response code and response description is shown. The API request is shown. You see the request headers are also shown. Here you see user agent, and it is revealing that I'm using Chrome browser and I'm on Windows 10 computer. And you see response headers are also there. Server name is coming. The date on which response is printed is coming. Content type is coming. And you see the response body also here. So here you see the HTTP method, the API request, the protocol, the response code and the response message, the response headers, the request headers, and the response body. So on your browser only you are seeing everything. So the client is clearly telling you that this is a client and server architecture which is clearly shown to you. Okay. So this is about client and server architecture for you guys. Any questions? And that's all I have for today's class. If you have any questions, I can take them for today.
Kiran, are you sharing these notes with us?
Yes, I will be sharing the notes from the next week onwards once I have the final confirmed list.
Okay, okay.
The classes are getting recorded. You will get access to classes on a daily basis. The notes also you will get. Please don't worry about the notes. You will get detailed notes. Whatever notes I'm writing, it is rough notes only. I will give you rough notes and also the neat detailed notes also I will share with you.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so any other questions from others? Okay, thank you very much for your time. If you have not yet enrolled and if you are happy with the classes, the please get back to Isha team and convey your acknowledgement or whatever you have to, because we are going to, we are continuing these classes, but the meeting link will change probably from tomorrow only for the confirmed participants. Okay.
Okay.
If
Yeah.
in case if the link does not change, use the same link. But anyway, get in touch with Isha team. They'll be updating you. Thank you very much, and I'll see
Thank
you
you.
guys again tomorrow, same time.
Kiran,
Yeah.
I want to. Can I talk to you at the end? Maybe 1 minute. I need you 1 minute of your time.
Yeah, go ahead. We can talk.
Oh,
Okay, I'll stop
not now. I
the.
mean,
Shall I
once.
stop the record?
Yeah. Once everyone is gone, I just want to talk to you.
Okay, fine.
Mm.
Yeah, others please drop off. I'll stop the recording.